Well, welcome to Journey Online. Thanks for viewing with us today. Wherever you are, thanks for giving a little bit of time to this. I hope it'll be helpful to you. I want to start with just a statement and we'll go from there. Here's the first sentence, jumping right in. Not divorcing is a lame goal for a marriage. I just thought I'd throw that one out there. Nobody ever gets in front of a group of people and says, I do, and I do, whether it's in a church or a big group or a small group, family, friends, God, and says, listen, here's the goal. I guess I'll do it, whatever. You know what? In good times or bad, probably a lot of bad. I don't know. Sickness or health, probably going to be sick a lot, I guess. I don't know, but I'm in. Hey, you know what? I'll just hang out, but I ain't doing that. I ain't getting a divorce. I'm committed. The goal of not divorcing can't be, and for some people that's what it becomes, till death do us part. That can't be the goal. Now listen, if you're sitting watching this today and you're married, I hope some really helpful things for you today. Maybe you're watching this, and before you run away or turn that off, let me just say, maybe you're not married for one reason or another. Maybe you have been and aren't now. Or maybe you never have been. I just want to say, if you ever consider marriage again, this will be really helpful for you today, even maybe more helpful for you than anybody else. And then maybe you are married today and wish you weren't. If that's you and somebody's watching with you, I would not nod my head. Just leave it like it is. Let's not create more problems than what we're taking care of. Today we're in a series called REALationships, and we want to give real talk about relationships. Today I'm pointing toward marriage, but I just want to say this. If you're not married, this is what you need to hear most. If you are married, super helpful. If you ever spend life around a bunch of people, then you know you've got people in your circle who are struggling with marriage or who are going to get married. Your influence is key. So hang with me for just a little bit. I think today is a needed thing to hear. There's a lot of different ways to say things in life. Sometimes they're just super simple. Let me give you an example. I'm going to call you later. See, that's just simple. That is basic, to the point. No extra words. I'm going to call you. Everybody knows what it means. Nobody's like, I don't understand. If you don't understand that, you've got bigger issues. You need pills or help greater than I. You can add to it then, do you think that ignoring my call is rude? See, that one's got some layers. You're kind of making a statement, but you're kind of asking a question, but you're kind of in between. You're kind of wanting to get a little more across than just the words. You know what I mean? But you can go a little deeper, and this is the way that would sound. Are you going to keep acting like a total jerk? Or are you going to answer the call? See, that one ends with a question mark, but it's not really a question, is it? It's a statement that needs to be made. Matter of fact, you could put 3 exclamation points on the end, and it'd be perfectly appropriate. It's when you've got something to say that you've got really something else to say. All through Scripture, Jesus said things, and when he did, he had different meanings for them, and he said them in different ways. Most of us picture Jesus as kind of commander-in-chief. He made commands. Thou shalt not. Do that, do that, do that. Don't do that. Stop doing that. For instance, there was a guy who couldn't walk. Jesus came one day and healed him, and he said this to him. He said, stand up, which is something that nobody had said told that guy to do in a long time. Stand up, pick up your mat, and go home. That was a command. Stand up. Not a, hey, listen, I know you've been laying there for a while, but sometime in the next few days, if you have it. He just said, get up, grab the mat, and go see your family. It was a command. At the end of his time on earth, right before he went back into heaven with his disciples around him, his followers around him, he looked at them and said, I want you to go, exclamation point. I want you to go to all the nations. And I want you to share with them what I've shared with you because it's life-changing. And what I've done for you, I want you to do for others and share the same truth with them. It wasn't hey, if you're not busy, if you can squeak out sometime, I know you got a lot. He said, commanding, go. But often what Jesus said wasn't in command form. We've just spent a series the last few weeks deconstructing God, peeling back the layers and seeing parts of God that people often don't see. One of them that we found is an attitude that Jesus had. Sometimes he had really direct commands. Other times he gave invitations. When he saw a bunch of guys follow him around right at the beginning of being public on this earth, he told them, he said, follow me. I've got a better life for you. I've got something better than what you're doing now. I've got something with meaning attached. But he didn't say follow me like get over here now. He said follow me as an invitation. And they said okay, and off they went. There's a passage in the book of John, chapter 11, where Jesus offers an invitation as well. This is what he says, come to me, all of you who are weary and carry heavy burdens, and I'll give you rest. It wasn't a command, hey, over here. It wasn't that. It was an invitation. You can come to me. And he gave this little caveat. The people who especially he was talking to is people who were tired, or people who were overwhelmed, or people who wondered, do you ever get out of the rat race? Do you ever get off the wheel? Do you ever get off this treadmill of day after day? I just do and hope to do enough, but it never seems like enough. Come to me. All of you who are weary and carry heavy burdens. And then he gave them an invitation, and then he finished with a promise, and I'll give you rest. That's pretty cool. My invitation is anybody who's tired, anybody who's a little bit weary, anybody who's had a long week, month, year, life, come to me. But then he finishes with a promise, and what I want to do is give you rest. He's not saying I'm going to give you a nap. Nap time, now some of you are like, I would so take that. I'm just saying it was bigger than that. I will give you rest. What he's saying is you can come to me. I'll be the safest place you've ever found. And with me, you can find rest. You can find healing. You can find better. You can find wholeness. Matter of fact, he gave some language to finish this out. He said it this way, take my yoke upon you. Let me teach you, because I'm humble and gentle at heart, and you will find rest for your souls. For my yoke is easy to bear, and the burden I give you is light. If you've been around church very much, we often say something that's a little bit backwards, and I think I'm super guilty of it myself. We often say, that's when I invited Jesus into my life. That's when I invited God into my life. And here we're told, it's good intention when we say that, it's just not very good language. Here we're told the way it's supposed to be. It's not inviting God or inviting Jesus into our life. It's actually just the opposite. It's God saying, I'm inviting you into my life. I'm not saying I'll come connect and give you a little boost. He's saying, listen, I want you to come to me, because when you do, I'll connect you to my world. And in my world, I'll help carry your burdens. I'll connect with you. And it'll be me taking some of the weight that you were never meant to carry alone. And in the end, that my yoke is easy and the burden I give you is light. I've come to carry what you weren't designed to carry. It's an invitation. What he's saying is this is the safest place you could ever land. That safe word, that word safe or safety, is one we want to focus on today. Whenever I talk to couples, and I've for 30 years plus, I've been talking to couples, sometimes pre-marriage, sometimes after marriage. Sometimes it's when people are ready to get married and we're having premarital counseling. Sometimes it's people who've been married a while and it's not going great. And I usually get around to ask him, why did you choose him or why did you choose her? How did you guys end up together? What are the qualities? And I've been writing them down. Here's what a few people have said. When I'm around him, I feel like I can completely be myself. No pretending, no mask. That's the one I've been given most. Now, no, it makes you feel like you either need to throw up a little bit in the back of your mouth if you're a little cynical about marriage, or go, ah. But I'm just telling you, for me, that would have been my story. When I first met my wife and we were dating, it felt like more and more and more, it was like the place I could just be me. I didn't have to try to impress. I didn't have to try to convince. It just felt safe for me. It's the number one answer I get. Here's another one. She understands me better than anyone else ever has. She gets me. He gets me. Hear that answer all the time. I realized I never wanted to spend another day without him or her. Now, everybody who's had a bad marriage and you're a little bit jaded, you're like, hey, listen, babe, you'll get over that. I promise. But the truth is, almost everybody that's ever been married has felt some of that. I'll give you a couple more. She always seems to she seems to put others ahead of herself, including me. You know what I love about her is she seems so focused on helping others, and that's the way she's felt to me. It's helped me. He believes in me even when I don't even believe in myself. And I hear that one all the time. Man, when I'm not sure if I can, the person behind me is always saying, I think you can. Hey, don't give up. Two more and we'll stop. I know I could go through anything as long as she or he is with me. And then the last one, he helps me feel safe, emotionally and physically. Now, a lot of us understand this word. A lot of us big he men, I know as you look at me, you think that, strong, virile men. Physically, we're really good at that. For some of you men, and it would be that way with me, don't stay away from my wife. Don't hurt her. Don't be careful where you go. We'll go round and round and round. Some of you go, listen, I'm a safe place. You've got something in your belt that you can reach for, in your glove box, or you've got whatever it is for you. Go, listen, I'm not letting anybody hurt my family. I'm not letting anybody hurt my wife. A lot of us understand that, but safety is not just a physical, it's an emotional thing. It's a relational thing. What brings safety into the world of the people around me? It's what Jesus was saying. You can come to me because I'm going to give you a safe place to land, and as a result, you're going to find rest for your soul. Not just rest like, whoo, but I'm going to help you find health. I'm going to help you find everything you were created for, because there's more to this life than what you're experiencing. And I want you to know that. It is such a big deal. Finding safety is what everybody longs for. It's what everybody needs. If you have safety in a marriage, you have a marriage that can continue to grow. And if you don't have safety in it, it doesn't really matter what else you do. You'll never overcome that. When I talk about marriage, I always like to say that marriage is not a thing to be fixed like your engine. Like your house, you grab some tools and you work on it. I'm just saying marriage is not a thing, it's two people. And when it comes to two people, the thing that initiates and makes everything else work. It is the framework that holds a marriage together, is this issue of safety. It's hard to notice, but we always know for sure when we don't have it. Sometimes we take it for granted until we don't have it, and that's not just in a marriage, that's in any relationship. When there's not safety, when there's not trust, it's hard for anything else to find a good spot. By the way, this thought is all through Scripture. Let me give you one more, and then we'll streamline what we're thinking. My favorite passage in the Bible is this in Proverbs chapter 3. It says this, trust in the Lord with all your heart and do not depend on your own understanding. Seek His will in all you do, and He will show you which path to take. For all of I hope I'm doing the right things and I want to end up at the right place, and I'm not sure if this is what I was put on this earth to do. It starts with this, trust in the Lord, and He's saying He is trustworthy. When you place your trust with Him, He will help you find the outcomes. But it starts with trust, and trust is imperative. He gives us one more thought along with this. He said, don't be impressed with your own wisdom. Don't think you've got this figured out. Don't think you're meant to do this on your own, because you're not. Instead, fear the Lord and turn away from evil. Then you will have healing for your body and strength for your bones. That strength for your bones is having to do with you inside. What God wants to do for us is He's trying to say, I'm a safe landing spot, and if you will come and connect with the life I have for you, I have a better life, I have better things. I don't want you to live as stressed, as overwhelmed, as tired, as purposeless or meaningless as you may be feeling right now. The Bible tells us over and over that's true. And it all starts with this issue of safety. I tried to figure out the best way to say it, so let me just throw these things up there. Until there's safety, there'll be very little trust. When it comes to God, if you don't feel like God is safe, if you feel like he's out to get you, not out to bring you back, then you'll probably never trust. If you've heard all these things in today's society about a God who is demeaning and demanding and who just wants to use you as a means to an end, there'll be very little safety, and where there's safety, there's no trust. The same in relationships. When you feel like the other person isn't in it for you, but just for themselves, there is no safety. When physically it doesn't feel safe, when relationally it doesn't feel safe, where there is no safety, there'll be very little trust. Until there's trust, there'll be very little healing. Sometimes they'll put people in a coma who've been really sick, and part of the reason is so their body can relax enough to begin healing. Coma sounds like a very awkward place to be, but sometimes it allows your body time to recover. Sometimes they'll take your leg and they'll put it in a cast, or your arm and put it in a cast and immobilize it. And the reason for doing it is to let it heal without more trauma. Over and over, God says, come to me. I want to protect you from some of that trauma. That my ways help do that. And in marriage, part of the goal of coming together, a man and a woman coming together, is just for that thing. It is to saying together, we can build a safe place. I'll be a safe place for you. And where there's safety, there can be trust. And where there's trust, there can be healing. For all of the blows that we take from our past, from our present, that we worry about for our future. And then the end of that, let's go back one on that. The end of that is until there's healing, there's very little strength and growth. It's hard to move forward if you haven't healed from the past. I don't know if you've noticed this, but people in the hospital have a hard time going to the gym every day. Sometimes you've got to get a little healing before you can start building back your strength. And that's the natural thing. We go and we find more healing, and when more healing is found, then we rehab and we try to build strength back. That's the way life is intended to be. So the truth of the matter is, if you're married, if you love your spouse, if you wonder what's the gift you give the person who has everything, what's the best gift I could ever give? And I love that conversation. What's the best gift you've ever received in your life? Oh, I remember once I got, and we went on the best gift that you could ever give anybody that you love. It doesn't have to be in marriage. It can be a friend. It can be your kids. It can be your extended family. The best gift you could ever give anyone else is to become the safest place on earth for them. To become the one spot where they can find refuge, where it is open, not trying to fix you, not trying to change you, but where you're fully loved and fully known. The best gift you can ever give. By the way, that is the reason most people get married. They feel like they have found that. Over the course of time, with a lot of injury and a lot of hurts, often we don't feel that anymore. So I just want to finish up this thought by saying, listen, we could talk about 47 characteristics of a great marriage. We can talk about, if you're going to get married, here's 7 things you ought to do. In the end, I'm going to tell you this. You have to become a healthier person to be the safest place on earth. You can't be caught up in your own junk all the time and be safe for anyone else. But your goal needs to become, I will become the safest place on earth. If you're going to do that, or if you're not that, if you're like me, and that's what I want to be, but it's not what I always am, I want to leave us with some thoughts about ways that we can get there, and I take these really serious. Let me just say this. I know for some of you, the area of deepest hurt in your past, for some, the area of deepest hurt in your present has to do with this relationship of marriage and where it's going, how to get through it. And some of your deepest scars are from this. I don't want to give flippant answers. But let me just give you these. And the first one just sounds almost ridiculous to say. The first thing you need to do if you want to be the safest place on earth is care. This one's a tough one. I talk to people a lot who've been married a little while, and they're not being mean. They're not just taking shots at their spouse, but they say, Chris, here's part of my problem. I don't know if I do. Care. I've kind of reached a point and I feel pretty numb and I'm not sure how much I care. I'm not sure how much care I have left. When we started, man, I was over the moon in love. I was in all the way. And I want to be that person now. And I'm trying to care. I'm just not sure I do. I'll just say this to you. In my life, I have found when I'm at my least healthy, I'm at my least caring. I found myself when I was as depleted physically and mentally and emotionally and relationally. When I'm depleted in any of those areas, you know what I don't have? I don't have any more care. I'm cared out. My care meter is on empty. Have you ever felt that way? I'm not just talking about in general. Have you ever felt it doesn't have to be just about a spouse, it can be about your job. Sometimes people every day in our world reach that about life. They just go, I don't know that I want to anymore. So how can somebody end up feeling like that? One day at a time. That's how. Be human. Life's tough. It is easier to deplete than to rebuild. And for a lot of us, that is a story of 1,000 paper cuts is how we ended up where we are. But when I start with care, I don't take for granted that we do. And I just want to say this, just because you don't have feelings of care right now, it doesn't mean your marriage is done. For a lot of people, that is the litmus test. That's the way they gauge what they should do next. I don't guess I've got any choice. We have to be done. I'm just not sure I care. I was in love, and now I've fallen out of love. One, I think that's a dumb statement, but it's not a dumb sentiment. I understand what's being said. It's what I don't feel that anymore. And it is hard for me to stay engaged with something or with someone when I don't feel that anymore. Let me throw out some ideas around this care thing. I've got 4 of them here. One is that feelings can fade accidentally. And if you're feeling that, rather than me try to beat you up and tell you what's the matter with you, how about if we just say this? All you have to do is wake up, do your life full out, go to bed and repeat that cycle over and over enough times, and you can lose feelings or care accidentally. Tell you what makes it tough, restoring them is always on purpose. Nobody ever accidentally restores their feelings. But can I tell you, where there was love that was felt and care that was felt and it's not felt now, just because you don't feel it doesn't mean it's not there. It doesn't mean it can't be restored. It doesn't mean that it can't be found. The truth is, the person you married, you didn't love before you did love them. That's pretty deep, isn't it? Thank you very much. There was a day you didn't know them. That love started somewhere, and the feelings that came with that is how you recognize that love. And I'm just going to tell you, if your care has faded, it doesn't mean you're a bad person, and it doesn't mean you don't love, and it doesn't mean you have to give up. Care can be restored. Some ways that we might get there, start with small acts of kindness, little things. You go, well, I don't think we need a little help, we need a lot. We'll start with something small. Send a text that just says something good, that expresses your love, that expresses your concern. A small gift, a small act. You know what that is. You don't need me to tell you what small acts of kindness are, but I'm going to tell you they're not just to show the other person. They're for you and they're for me. When I do that, it raises my care level. A little bit at a time. The same way it fades over time is the same way it comes back over time. I also need to make sure I'm dealing with hidden resentment, because sometimes resentment overwhelms any feelings or any sense of care. That our anger or our bitterness or our unforgiveness or our hurt, that scar tissue grows over and we become insensitive in those areas. We don't feel love anymore, but what we feel is hurt. What we feel is frustration. What we feel is ticked off. If they love me, then how could they? And I get it. I'm not lessening that. I'm just saying you have to deal with some of that resentment, not just for the sake of the other person, because this one's going to carry over into next relationships too. If we don't deal with it, it'll follow us. It'll haunt us. It'll disable us the rest of our life. And then the fourth piece, revisit your why. It's a few of those statements we started with. Why did you ever feel like there was love? Why did you ever want to get married? Why would you ever get into the relationship? Sometimes I'll talk to people and they'll be like, well, he this and she that, and they'll tell me that long list, and I'll try to say, why in the world would you ever marry that loser? Did you have no self-image? Well, no. He just works all the time, and sometimes he's just so gruff with me. I don't feel like he cares about what I'm thinking, but I will be honest with you, man, he works hard to be a good dad. Or I appreciate the fact that he works so hard and provides for our family. And the truth is, he's not a bad guy, but right now, in those stories, to revisit your why did you ever start this, is super valuable, because over time, those things get pushed so far down, and what gets made large, it's like on your phone or on your screen, when you just zoom in that way, we can zoom into all the things that are wrong, and we can forget that behind all of that, there is still running some good things. Revisit your why. Till your care goes up, your safety stays down. Make sense? Let me give you another one. Care seems so easy. The second one just is really point blank. Listen. Stop talking and listen. Yeah, I've heard everything they've got to say. No, that's probably not true. And even if they said everything they've got to say, the odds of you hearing it are pretty slim. There are different kinds of listeners. You can point this out with the people you work with, the people in your home, your family, your kids. Some people listen, they're called assumptive listeners. You'll know these because they like to finish your sentence. When you say, I was really going to go do, and they'll go, oh, you're going to drop that off and pick that up? No, that's not what I was going to say. You know what I was really thinking the other night? Yeah, that it's really been a long time since we've been on vacation. No, I was actually going to say that we really ought to wash the car. Assumptive listeners, and it's not always bad. It's people who are connected, but they're like, I know where you're going, and they go there before you go there. And then here's the problem, is sometimes they go where you weren't going. And even when you finish the conversation, you never feel heard because they don't know what you were talking about, because they finished your sentence with their sentence. You ever had that happen? Not bad people. Some people are married to people who communicate, like at this speed, and they're going, come on, for the love of all things good. Finish the sentence. It's that. And then there's celebrity listeners. They are people, when you start to talk, that just want you to hurry up and shut up so they can talk about themselves. It's everybody you see on screen. Yeah, I heard that, but what about me? If we said anything about me lately, what about me? Me. It's all about me. So when you're talking, they're like, And another thing, let me tell you about this, but once I did that, it was better than what you did. Yeah, but what about this? They're celebrity listeners. The third one is fixers. No one cares. The old saying is, no one cares about how much you know. Can you finish it with me? Till they know how much you care. They're fixers. When you say, man, I'm really struggling with that, or man, I'm so tired of that, you know what you ought to do. Hey, you know what? The other day I read this, and 4 things you could do right now, and sometimes what I don't need is fixed. Sometimes what I need is understood. Sometimes what I need is just for somebody to care enough to shut up and be a safe place for me, because sometimes I just need to unload some stuff. Listening screams safety. Listening says, you're so important to me, I'm going to shut off all of me to take in all of this. Is that you're so important that I could be thinking about scrolling. I could be thinking about my story. I could be thinking about what I think you're going to say. But right now, I'm just going to try to understand. I'm going to try to feel what you're saying. I'm going to listen. Maybe the hardest thing we talk about. There's probably 1,000 things you could do easier than this, because this means you've got to put yourself second in this moment. That's usually where people find safety in somebody else. Let me give you a third one. There's only 4. Don't lose it yet. Prioritize. I won't spend a lot of time because we all understand. The problem is when people are dating, they prioritize the other person. They find, I got to hurry up and call them. I just want to get over there. We're just going to hang out tonight, and I hate to go home because I just want to be. And then sometimes when we get married, familiarity, busyness, fatigue, it often means what marriage becomes is the leftovers of life. What it becomes is whatever else is left when I run out of everything else, that's what I'll give you. That's not because you're bad or because you don't care. That's because you're human. The last one is this: deal with your conflict. Deal with it sooner, not later. Keep a short list of hurts. Keep a short list of things that are going on. Deal with them. Sit down. I don't want to have to mess with them. If you don't deal with it, it will haunt you forever. Little things fester. Little things grow. Little things infect. Little things become septic, and septic things become toxic, and toxic things destroy. Sooner, not later, and then do it in a healthy way. It's when we approach even an argument, even a conflict. Dealing with conflict means that instead of just trying to argue our way through it, that sometimes we do this when the other person is going through stuff and you're frustrated with them, and we listen to them. Maybe we think there's something to learn, not something to prove. When you're in conflict, how good are you at backing up to that point and saying, maybe I ought to just quit telling them what I think and try to understand what they think? I've got something to learn more than I've got something to prove. But the problem is, for many of us, is sometimes we'd rather win the argument and injure the relationship. I'm going to make my point. If I don't win, I'm not going to lose because I'm right and you're wrong. And I would rather make my point, even if it's to the detriment of our relationship and even if it's the detriment of you. Because in the end, my being right is more important than you. Nobody ever says that. Really? I think I've said that a lot of times in my life, whether I've used words just like that or I've just showed it through my actions. We'll wrap up with this. If you want to have a healthy relationship with your kids, if you want to have a healthy relationship with your spouse, if you want to have a healthy relationship with the people you love most, you got to know your job description. And this is the one we've got to learn, that my job is to love them. It's to love them well. It's to grow in that and become a healthy enough me that I have more love to offer. My job is to love them, to become the safest place on earth. Their job, God's job in that, my job is to love. God's job is to fix them. He's the one that brings about change. When I bring about safety, safety brings about trust. Where there's trust, they'll find healing. And where healing is found, growth is found. Change is found. It all starts with safety. So here's my question for you. What would you have to do? What could you do this week to become the safest place on earth for somebody that you love an awful lot? If you've got guts enough to do it, let me just challenge you that way. Sit down with somebody you love. Sit down with your wife or your husband. Sit down with somebody and ask them, in what ways, what things do I do that help you feel safe? It's an awkward conversation, and when you do it, the other person will not have good answers right off the bat. This is a practice one. This is something Leslie and I have talked about. I've talked about with couples for years. It gets easier with time. And for a wife to say, what do I do that makes you feel safe? Just seems weird. The guy's like, I don't need you to make me feel safe. Yes, you do. Get over yourself. It may not be, yeah, you punched that guy out the other day. Get him. It may not be that. You know there's more to it than that. Grown-ups understand. And what do I do? In what ways do I make you feel safe? And there's some answers to that, even in tough relationships. And then the other side, what could I do better? Tell me one thing I could do. Sometimes I had a wife not long ago who said, the thing that my husband could do that would make me feel safe is if every now and then in the middle of everything, he would say, I'm going to push that all aside and it's just going to be us. Well, that doesn't sound so hard. That's getting a sitter, or it's changing my schedule a little bit. But I'm just telling you with no reason, not because it's Valentine's Day, not because it's a birthday, not because it's whatever, just because. The ability to pick up a phone and say, I was thinking about 2 weeks from now, us just taking a night and doing that. And I'm going to make the plans. I'm going to call. I'm going to set it up. But I haven't got to be with you enough. For a lot of women in the world, they would say, if my husband would just take that initiative, it would make me feel so safe. Sometimes people say, when I see her caring for herself, it means I don't need to be involved in that. It makes me feel safe when I see them growing. Often people say, when I watch the way she deals with our daughter, our sons, it makes me feel so safe because I love that side of her. I don't know what it is for you. What could you do this week that would help you bring safety to somebody else's life? Don't underestimate it. Come to me, all of you who are tired and weary, and I'll give you rest. And with rest comes trust, and with trust comes healing, and with healing comes strength. And all of us want strong. That's where it starts, is with safety. Let's pray. So God, help us this week become the safest place on earth for somebody, as you have for us. And then help us recognize sometimes when we're not doing that sometimes just simple, stupid words scream unsafe. That sometimes our short-temperedness, sometimes our lack of effort or our lack of focus, sometimes just the fact that we are cared out, we're just tired. Would you help us instead of giving up? Would you help us lean into you and find rest for our souls so we can become the safest place on earth for someone else? We ask it in your name. Amen. Hey, thanks so much for watching.